values for text boxes and buttons, and usually don't bother with changing labels. Default property, just be label 1, label 2. But I do set the buttons and text boxes to be meaningful. So here, the text boxes IDs will be text name, text email, text phone. The button ID will be button display, button clear, and the text will be display and clear. This has become a little more obvious as you see the next screenshot. So here are my buttons, the display and the clear button, and the text boxes have the names that we just showed you a moment ago. So once your web page or your web form has properties set, this is what it should look like. Some of the most important properties that we're going to work with are listed here. So we have 3 properties that we should know something about. The auto postback property, the ID property, and the text property. Auto postback relates to the ability of the control to trigger a postback, a send of the page to the web server. The ID is simply the name of the control. So instead of text box 1, it's text box first name. And then the text is the actual value you want to show in the text box or the button. Usually in a text box, you'll have nothing in the text field. In a button, it'll be the name of the display that you want in the button. So the submit button or the OK button, for example. We talked about source, design, and split views. So Visual Studio has introduced this new feature. The design view is simply the what you see is what you get view, the WYSIWYG as it's called. So this shows the page as it looks like when you run the application in the browser. The source view is the HTML and the script view. So if you're a more advanced developer, you're comfortable writing your code and putting your HTML tags and everything all manually, then you probably will favor the source view. And the split view splits the screen to show you both design and source view in a split window. And this is my favorite because this gives everybody, new and experienced developers, a chance to see the HTML and the source being generated as they use the designer window to drag and drop controls. So it's good for everybody. And this is what it looks like. So here in the split view, you see my controls at the bottom, and you see a section of the source view at the top. So this is really the best way to learn a little bit about HTML and building your web page. The first thing that I would like to do is to change the title of my page in the source code. This is the only way that I can do it. It is important to have a meaningful title if it's important for your website to be registered with a search engine such as Google and Yahoo and MSN. If you care about other people finding your web page, then choosing a meaningful title is important. Do not just leave it as untitled page. For example, if I'm writing a page about, let's say, animals or something, perhaps I'm writing a website all about interesting exotic animals around the world, and writing a page about elephants, then I want to give that page a meaningful title, such as all about African elephants or all about Indian elephants, or whatever it is that describes reasonably clearly what this page is about. So as we said earlier, just by studying the source view, it's a good way for you to learn about HTML and cascading style sheets and active server pages. So there's a lot there. In this example, you notice the thing at the top is the page directive. The second line, the doc type, identifies the standard that we're following for our HTML, XHTML, and then we have the HTML tag listing the XML namespace that we're using, followed by the heading of our page, the head, and then the body, which usually will have the bulk of our HTML. That'll go in the body section. Usually once you've got the page laid out and the design controls added in the designer, you want to add some code. So you can add code three different ways. You can right-click the web form in Solution Explorer and select View Code. That's one way. You can simply right-click in the blank area, some blank area in the designer window, and you'll see another View Code context menu appear. Or you can simply double-click a control such as a button. Any one of those will bring up the code view. You decide which is your preference. I kind of prefer the last one. Just double click on a button control, code view pops up, and I can then add my code in there. And that's what I'm showing you here. So double click the button, code window opens up immediately, and I have my subroutine here. This is the VB example, and I can start adding my code where the cursor is positioned. In this upcoming demo, I'm going to ask you to add a little bit of code, not too terribly complicated. So if the drop-down contact category selected value is Bill, then I want to display Bill's email and phone. Obviously, this is not a production-ready example. It's more of a demonstration. I'd probably use a database or a file to get Bill's data. But here, all I want to do is when my user selects Bill in his drop-down, then I'm going to display Bill's email and phone. You can run your program by clicking on the green play button, so that's about the easiest way. So right at the top of the toolbar, and this will say start debugging. Technically that's what it is. I just call it the play button. The first time you run your application, you'll get this debug warning message. It's nothing to be alarmed about. It's simply telling you that it's recommending that you allow debugging as you test and develop your program, and usually we will say yes. And the way it does that is it adds a statement in the web configuration file which says that debugging is on. You can always run without debugging once you've got your program done and you're about to release it to production. You could probably get rid of that line in there in the web config file, or set it to false to be more precise. Again, we'll talk more about the web config file later. For now, just want you to be aware of what this is doing, what it's telling you. So usually just accept OK, and that's fine. Take a few seconds for it to compile your web page, but you should then see a page that looks something like this. So here I've got my web browser, and I see that my personal contacts web page, and the name, email, and phone number, and I can display the information or I can clear the existing information. It's a pretty simple web page, really. So you can test your web page by clicking the display button, and you'll notice the email and the phone number are then updated. So congratulations, you've built your first website in ASP.NET. It's not that difficult. It's kind of fun, actually, and you're just going to keep on getting better at this the more you work on it. So what we'd like you to do is take a look at the lab exercise that comes along with this chapter. And first of all, you're going to build your own version of the personal contacts web form. You want to test it to make sure it's working correctly. We've kind of laid out all of the steps already here in these slides, so you should find it pretty straightforward. And then exercise 2, you're going to modify your application by carrying out a few extra steps. Change the title, add address, city, state, and zip fields, and add some more test data for several of the contacts. Again, you can go to the Learning Domain website. You'll be able to download your lab. Just to show you real quick where the lab for this lesson is Lab 3, building the one-page website. So this has step-by-step instructions showing you what you need to do to get through this lab. So it's an important one for you to attempt. So if you've found this lesson useful, then that's great. We look forward to seeing you in an upcoming lesson once you've attempted the lab. Thank you.